Hey, this is Dad, Rick. See this basket? See what's in it? I just want to use this as a prop for today's chat. Did you ever have any trouble connecting with people in your family or other people when you're trying to follow God literally? Did it ever feel as if it's a narrow road? Here, I'll walk over to the actual. Let me put this on the rail. See that road over there? The road that runs in front of our house is very narrow. And Jesus did say, hey, if you really want to seriously follow me, you need to walk a narrow road. The wide road it's very easy to follow that. It's the path to destruction. It's a narrow road, and he said few find it. At times when he would talk like this, the disciples would say, wow, it seems almost impossible. Who then can be saved? And Jesus said, well, with God, all things are possible. And so it's really beautiful to hear that we are called to that standard. But what do you do when you're surrounded by family members, friends? I'll focus mainly on family members who aren't necessarily wanting to follow the same narrow road. It's hard enough walking the Christian narrow road ourselves. But if you feel neglected or ostracized or just odd, like an odd duck in relation to your own family, did you ever feel a little odd that the more literally you follow what God wants, the more it could be as if you're by yourself and it's just you and God, or maybe you, God, and a few others? Well, that's what I want to address today. God wouldn't leave us orphans. Jesus wouldn't say, do a narrow road and that's it. Just tough it out. Be separated from people. Hey, that's good. It's a good sign. He did say that when you're persecuted, rejoice. Look up to heaven. Your honor comes from God. Your reward comes from God. If you're truly persecuted, but a lot of people in our families, and even at our work or neighborhood, but let's say mainly families, they're not trying to offend. It's just that they don't relate to the part of you that's born again, because if they haven't done that, if they haven't asked God, please, I accept, I repent, I receive what Jesus did, I want to be filled with the Spirit, bring my spirit alive, I want to be born again. If their spirit isn't born again, how are they going to relate to anything but the five senses? And that leads me to this. Because even parents know this. You can't just have a baby and then another baby and just put Bibles in the crib and expect that will do it. You have to find points of connection that are within that narrow road. And you know what I have found as a father to a big family and having to be in the real world, playing softball leagues, with the beer leagues where we don't drink beer, but we go there for just the softball and reaching out. And also we're not like real pious where everybody who is in a beer league feels very comfortable that we love them, and we're not. It's more like pro Jesus and being born again. It's not like sniffing out, oh, you're drinking too much. Because when you bring people to Jesus, they want to be excellent. So we focus on the narrow road of loving God and finding the truth. Because see, a narrow road is good when it's the right way. When you're trying to drive somewhere and you're lost, and somebody gives you directions and says, I turn here, turn there, turn there. It's a narrow, specific road that gets you there. But aren't you glad? So God's narrow road is a good narrow road. But I knew having kids, especially babies, and with all the media out there and all the peer pressure, how in the world am I going to raise one, then two, then three? Well, I found connections. Now, had we had a lot of girls, we had 13 sons and one girl, maybe the baskets would have been a better connection, because Kathy loves these baskets. When we go on our trips, I'll tell you a little bit more about this in a couple minutes. This has a beautiful story behind it. All the baskets do. But I happen to have a lot of boys, one and two, three. Because see, at the beginning of our marriage, I had said, God, we want to welcome kids. Would you make the first few be guys, boys, so they could take care of the girls? Well, I never specified what few meant. So 1, 2, 3, we had 10 straight boys. That's when a lot of the news services started calling. We had some national stories. When Mary Elizabeth came as the only girl after, the 11th child was the first girl, it really gave us an outlet to talk about, God, indirectly, just to show love of God, and sometimes talk in our interviews with different national or even international media. Well, it kind of led to what we're doing now. We've been doing this outreach now for a long time in media, and then God opened it. He has a sense of humor. I never specified what a few was, so we wound up with 13 sons, 10 of them older than our only daughter. But anyway, this was a connection point. This is one of the best ways that I was able to share the love of Jesus and the truth of Jesus with my sons. Because starting when they could play ball, they would have a plastic bat and a ball, and I'd go out in the backyard and pitch to them. We didn't have much of a backyard then. It was an old neighborhood, an old fixer-upper house. We had to rent the upstairs for about 5 years as newlyweds, until we had 4 boys, actually. We finally moved upstairs. But it took over the whole house. But it just gave me connection, because the more ways you can connect with your kids, and maybe for daughter, it would be cooking. For us, it became outdoor activities, walks, getting ice creams, telling funny stories at bedtime. I hope they were funny. They laughed at them. They kept wanting me to tell more. Watching when it became the VHS was invented, renting some old Disney cartoons from the 30s and 40s, having conversations when they were old enough, talking about presidential elections, talking about the MLB, Major League Baseball. And then when Mary Elizabeth came, there were all sorts of other avenues that Kathy could finally, as a mother, open up, such as going places, maybe going in Amish country and getting baskets like this. To connect with Kathy, I made several trips to Amish country, and I fell in love with those places. I really like those places, country stores. And I began to go up and down the aisles and say, hey, Kathy, look, there's a basket. You like this kind? No, I think I like the reddish more. This was a beautiful green. And then she'd say, oh, I like that green too. And then she might like a blue. This one's faded because it was by my window in my office. And the pine cones are from family trips. So there's just so many inexpensive, simple ways where you can connect with your own family. And that's what we did over the years. Because I think the most spirit-filled, born-again, Bible-following person should be the most accessible and most connected and loving person on earth. Jesus didn't give up. He didn't sin, but he didn't give up connections with others because he was sinless and filled with the Spirit. He was known as someone who hung around with those who were sinners. And it doesn't say in the Bible that he only was doing it to preach and fold his arms and look disapprovingly at them. It looked as if he did it in a very relaxing way. Or when he played with the children, he knew he wanted to make connections, and love is what we have. That's the best magnet that keeps a family close, is love for God and mercy toward each other, and a closeness based on shared activities. Now, each one's going to be a little different. Not everyone in our family loved sports as much as other ones did. But you know what? Everybody agreed. It became such a family activity for me to go out and pitch to them that we formed a softball league, a softball team, and we played for 20 or 25 years, father and sons. And that was a beautiful connection that continues to this day. Also working on the land, not having a lot of money, helped us create new ways to do the land. We had to get on the machines. Now, to go over to these baskets, to tell a story about that, for a long time, the first 20 years of our marriage, we weren't able to travel. We couldn't take family trips. It was everything to just raise the kids, do homeschooling, build the businesses. But eventually, about 26 years ago, we began to take modest trips that it had to be practical. They had to be lighthouses, places that were free, Civil War sites. And you can wander through stores, country stores. And Kathy began to, after all those years of bearing children, finally be able to go to places like Amish country. We would stay there sometimes. Our first trip used to be at KOAs. We would go KOA camping, or then eventually we began to find some houses that if you went off season, because we were homeschoolers, so we could go in the fall when things were beautiful with foliage, but kids were back in school, families weren't vacationing. So we were able to go to a new website, which knew back at that time, VRBO, and look for houses that were for rent, and they would give great deals. And we just found, by visiting lighthouses, Civil War sites, walking along trails, looking at parks, looking at all these places, it kept us really busy and kept the budget very low. So Kathy began to, I really felt like, boy, I owe it to you after having all these kids and standing by me and homeschooling. I'm so glad we can travel. So now, even to this day, when we travel, I love to take her into stores. She's very thrifty. She doesn't buy anything. She has a rule. Unless I know specifically where it's going to go and I feel like it's organic to the plot. It has to be fit in with the rest of what I'm doing here. And she went so long with just bare walls, and everything had to be so bare. Everything was poured into raising the kids, buying books for the homeschooling. I just love it when she does find something. And when we go to our honeymoon place, Colonial Williamsburg, we always stop at the Jamestown glassblowing area, which dates back to 1608 when the first settlers came here. It's almost exactly in the same spot where today they continue to blow glass, like little pitchers, and I say pitcher, like a pitcher to pour something out of. And we pick up something every year, but she's very frugal. Now she's gotten into quilting. So we get to stop at these various country stores, and she talks to other women. So she deserves it so much. And I know a lot of you have sacrificed that way too. But there are so many ways you could connect with your family and still be completely on the narrow road with God. In fact, I think part of the narrow road is to connect with others. That's the narrow road. Because Jesus said, if you really, really want to know, really want to get it right, and everything is summed up in this, to love God with everything, and I'm paraphrasing, with everything you have, and to love others the same way as yourself. Well, that means connecting with people, not being some remote, super spiritual person who has the reputation of being cold and detached and super spiritual and always above everybody else. But it is tricky. How do you live the narrow road without looking that way to people? People who already feel guilty because they're not doing the right thing might think, aha, you're making me feel guilty. The way you're living makes me feel guilty. You can't really help that. But you can compensate knowing that the enemy is going to try to separate you. The enemy doesn't want you in their lives to evangelize them. You know what I do? I go heavy on the love. You know what I mean? When Jesus played with those little kids, let's assume that a lot of the parents weren't interested in repenting, weren't even interested and didn't believe he was the Son of God. He was like planting seeds of love. Plus it was his nature. And I'm sure that that's the way that many of them came to Jesus. Look at the thief on the cross. See, it wasn't through preaching that the thief on the cross came, not that we know of. He was witnessing and experiencing something, right? He might have witnessed the other thief making fun of Jesus, mocking him, or maybe he, for a while, was doing the same thing. And then he thought better of it. He was touched by Jesus' majestic forgiveness. And by the way, that's a real man, by the way. A real man isn't somebody who has to fight back. Jesus could have ordered angels from heaven legions of angels to destroy those who were persecuting him. His pride could have been, just like in a Western movie, the code of honor, hey, you kill somebody in my family, I'm coming after you. Basically Jesus didn't have that attitude. He knew he was God. He knew that he didn't have to show off. He actually felt sorry for them. So that's what we have to do with our loved ones, our family members. Now in our case, thankfully, a whole lot of our extended family members believe in Jesus. But in environments where you don't have that, it can be very hard. And that's why a lot of people will write me and say, this has become, this community here, very much like a family to me. And we welcome that, because that's why I think God created us, famteam.com and the Safe at Home. Well, now famteam.com is mainly the YouTube channel, and also Safe at Home, this YouTube channel. If you would do me a favor and partner with me and just watch all the videos on Safe at Home to the end, that just organically helps it to be sent to more people. Don't ask me how to figure it all out. It just does. And I just feel like God has probably put a few people out there who come here not only for themselves, who need prayer, but actually feel a sense of mission, like, hey, this is something I'd like to partner with. And actually, that's the way to do it. If you just be my partner and just max out what we're doing, like watch them all and send them to somebody and invite people to subscribe. But I don't want to, that's really not my big focus. If it stays the same size as it is now, it's up to God. I just feel that the message is important. If even one person hears this, and it makes a difference. And I just wanted to let you know that, after 46 years of marriage, and we were baptized in the Spirit, Kath and I, 52 springs ago, we've learned that the narrow road is to love in truth. Speak the truth in love. Once people know you're not going to compromise, that you really do believe literally in what God says in his word, they often honor that. If you deliver that in a loving way with mercy, they'll honor that. I don't think most people are looking for a fight. They just don't want to be. If we've done something to create coldness, then it's on us. Even if we're Christians born again, we need to think, okay, could I warm this up? Could I improve it? So just one way to improve it, every time you're around someone, show radiant love. That way, when it comes time to say, no, I don't believe that. I have to go with God's word because of this, because God's so good. He wouldn't tell us a narrow thing like that, except for his love for us. For example, let's say someone believes it's A-okay to have sex outside of marriage or abortion. Well, you can get a chance by earning a place into their lives by the love you show. Maybe when they come to a crisis like that, they'll listen to you and avoid an abortion. That happened to us. That's happened to us, where people gave us a hearing on an important subject because they had experienced the love, and because I had found a connection with them, just like I found with the baseball, with the guys. I don't have the baseball here. I must have put it. Oh, there it is down there. The guys, and with the baskets and the quilts with Kathy, because that's how I connect as a father and a husband. Hey, would you pray for me too? This, I'll just admit, this takes a lot to make these videos. It's really hot out here right now, and I'm wearing a really thick jacket. I shouldn't really. It's just humid here. But it just takes a lot of devotion. I look at Paul. I look at how Kathy sacrifices to do these videos, and Paul has to edit them. And it's just a labor of love. Mary Elizabeth does a lot behind the scenes. It's just a labor of love. We are a 501c3, Christian organization, but it's just something we do because we love people, and because God was so good to us. It's one way. And plus, when I look at the TV and see all the things happening in the world and in the culture, it's one thing I can feel like, instead of just throwing something at the TV screen and say, oh, what a world. You can go out and light a candle rather than curse the darkness, Just today I was watching things on the news, all the sad things happening with the citizens of Israel and Iran. I mean, all the people need Jesus. All the people need Jesus. But God can use things like this. In fact, with technology, things like this conversation can make it into citizens in Iran. It can make it into other places. One of you actually watched yesterday's service while in the Mediterranean. You said, hey, someplace in the Mediterranean. So this has such possibilities. So instead of like throwing something at the TV or just feeling depressed or just giving into the world, come and just help me light some candles, would you? Help Kathy, help Paul, John, Mark, Luke, Jude, James, Philip, Seth, Jacob, Nathan, Mary Elizabeth, Caleb, Peter, David, and all their, of course, my daughters-in-law and grandkids. They're a little young to do it right now, except to look cute in a picture or in a video. But just wanted to say, help us by nothing else supporting it in prayer, okay? Or just by listening to these to the end and just listening to all of them and sharing them. That means a lot to me. It just means a lot, because I feel like the corn crop, one seed could be used to just multiply until you could plant an entire county with corn. And that's how it is here. One of you had to be the first one to listen to a Safe at Home video when I started this just a few months ago. It's still not known. It's a secret. So help me share it, and let's be part of the solution instead of the darkness. I think a lot of people who are born again and wanting to follow that narrow road, like that one, are watching secular media too much. We got to stay informed, but they're kind of like almost being absorbed and just kind of giving up and kind of becoming like a blob, almost like molded in with the culture. No, just find your mission. Nowadays with media, you can do so much. You can pray into things. You can help partner with just showing up here. Encourages me. Encouragement is like water, and it's like just like over there again with that corn crop. As beautifully as they did it, that's the reason those little corn plants are so, Kathy says, are cute. Those little corn plants are so green is because we've had some rain lately. So when you come here and support, just watch these, that just is like rain. I remind myself it's worth it. Keep doing this, because something's always the most vulnerable at the beginning. Once it gets bigger, it'll kind of have its own momentum. But in the beginning is when it's a little newborn, or even it's in the womb still. Well, thank you so much for listening to me here. I'll check back later. Feel free to comment or ask for prayer. Don't be self-conscious if you've been listening anonymously and you have a need. Go ahead and write a message or a comment. Bye now.